Arizona takes initial steps to restart its economy.
So the plan has to be, in my opinion, to continue to phase in where we can do so safely.
The pandemic's effects in rural southern Arizona.
My roommate, she had 3 jobs at once and now she's got none.
And what expectations employees should have about returning to a safe work environment.
I think we're going to see where some employees are going to say they don't want to come back to work for concerns over COVID-19.
Hello and welcome to Arizona 360. I'm Lorraine Rivera. Thanks for joining us. Arizonans learned this week that the stay-at-home order will remain in place through May 15th. But Governor Ducey also modified his order, giving retailers the option to gradually reopen beginning May 4th.
What's next is how will we be judged on our economic recovery?
Under the new guidelines from the governor, starting Monday, closed retailers can offer curbside pickup or delivery. By the 8th, they can let customers inside with strict physical distancing requirements in place. It follows an earlier order to resume elective surgeries this month. In the days ahead, the governor says he will release his plan for dine-in restaurants.
But a best case scenario on that is May 12th. We're going to work with the industry and we'll have best practices going forward.
His approach received praise from the Arizona Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which we discussed with Chamber President Glenn Hammer.
Well, we certainly understand that this is a very difficult time. I mean, we've lost nationally 30 million jobs in a 6-week period, about 500,000 in Arizona. So, we're a chamber. We want to see businesses open and people working, but we want to make sure that it's done safely. And I would say that we're making progress as a state.
500,000 Arizonans without work. You're a business guy. You know what the economy can do. Are we in a recession at this point?
We're in a depression at this point. We've went right past recession, but it's important to understand the reason why. This is a natural disaster that struck every state in the country and every country in the world. It's Katrina times 1,000. And that's why we really appreciate that the governor has been data-driven, and his first priority has been to protect the health of Arizonans and to make sure that our hospital situation isn't overwhelmed. We never want to see the pictures that happened in Italy happening here.
How does Arizona recover from this moving forward? What's the plan?
Yeah, the plan is, and one of the important points I would make is that the governor's original essential services and activities order was probably the broadest in the country. Construction is open in Arizona. Agricultural is open in Arizona. Manufacturing is open. A lot of our tech companies are open. A lot of our retail on the bigger end in terms of food services are open. So the plan has to be, in my opinion, to continue to phase in where we can do so safely. So next up is retail. And then right after that, we're going to have more activity in our restaurants. The governor's working with the Arizona Restaurant Association so we can safely reopen some of the in-dining experiences that Arizona would love to get back.
This is preliminary, but already we've heard businesses, primarily restaurants, bars, who have said, I'm going to open regardless of what the governor says. And we heard the governor this week say there could be jail time, fines. What's the recourse going to be should a business say, I can't afford to keep my doors closed?
We want to get all Arizonans on the same page. We understand how difficult this time is, and I would say that the recourse is for a lot of these small businesses, the Paycheck Protection Program on the federal side has already pumped probably about $6 billion into the Arizona economy, or at least $6 billion loans have been approved for Arizona small businesses, and many more will benefit from the second leg of this program, which is, I believe, over $320 billion. There's also an expanded unemployment insurance program that lasts through the end of July, and that's open to independent contractors and to gig workers. That's an extra $600 a week, $840 total in Arizona to help people during this difficult time. I wish there were some great answers. There's unfortunately incredible pain out there. We recognize that. But what we don't want to see is we go faster than it's prudent and we take 2 steps forward and 10 steps backward. That's not going to help anyone.
You cited some numbers about the economic systems that are in place headed to Arizona all through the federal program. Any plans, though, from a state perspective to utilize some of that rainy day fund and pump it into the local economy?
Well, the rainy day fund is going to go very, very fast. And the big bazooka on the finance side is on the federal side, the Federal Reserve and it's the US Congress. And the state legislature and the governor prudently and in a bipartisan fashion did pass over $55 million worth of assistance on the state level. And a lot of that will be going to low income Arizonans and those most at need. But the vast majority of funding to help on the business side and on the unemployment side will be from the federal government. And I believe that's their responsibility as well.
We just heard this week that the president could be making a trip to Arizona next week. What does that tell you about his interest in this state and its economy?
Well, I believe he's going to be visiting the Honeywell facility that's producing the N95 mask. Those are the best marked masks in the world. So what that tells me is that the president's going to make a very strong statement about the importance of American manufacturing, and that is going to be part of our recovery. There's bipartisan consensus that we need to bring supply chains back to Arizona, and what better place to stop than a Honeywell facility that's adding 500 jobs while it's going to be producing hundreds of millions of masks that are going to protect Americans. It's a great story, and we're glad the president's going to visit that facility.
Glenn Hammer from the Arizona Chamber of Commerce, thank you for your insight.
Thank you.
Like Arizona, states across the country are in the process of figuring out how to safely restart their economies. We checked in with Hank Stevenson of the Yellow Sheet Report for analysis on Governor Ducey's approach, beginning with how state lawmakers figure into the mix.
But they've been in recess for weeks now. They're getting a little stir crazy. Some of them definitely want to come back. Some are even advocating to come back and finish up, the majority or a good chunk of the bills that they started this year. Others want to adjourn sine die today. Others want to come back. And I think this is probably the biggest portion of lawmakers want to come back and maybe do some very limited legislation related to coronavirus, be that economic development kind of legislation or public health kind of legislation, and then call it a year.
I've got to ask about party politics because the governor spoke this week, and he is known for being the business governor who can work across party lines. But now you have conservative Republicans who are upset he's not opening up the state sooner. So is this causing a divide?
Yeah, he came back, and I think a lot of them were really hoping that he would just reopen Arizona on May 1. He said maybe May 16th. And a lot of them were upset. They've been wanting to get this back going for a while now. They don't have a whole lot of patience for the stay-at-home orders or essential businesses that Ducey has decided to close if they're not essential. They want the economy back in full force right now. Ducey said no, and there may come some sort of a showdown from the legislature. There's a handful of very conservative Republicans agitating right now. The fact of the matter is, though, they can't get a majority of people to go against the governor. The Democrats are certainly not going to help out. Leadership has signaled that they want to take a cautious approach. It's really a handful of agitators making noise at this point.
I've got to ask about this press conference that took place this week. The governor was forced to answer some tough questions about his decision making toward the end. Essentially, he got up and left. What does that tell you about how challenging this issue is in the state of Arizona?
Yeah, Ducey got flustered, I would say, towards the end of yesterday's press conference, Wednesday's press conference, when reporters started grilling him about why they're not releasing data, both from prisons. We see the number of prisoners that are infected. Obviously, we're doing very few tests in prison, so those numbers aren't accurate. But he's not releasing prison guard information, prison employees, whether they're coming down with the virus. And he's also not allowing the state to release information about nursing homes, whether they have an outbreak there. You've seen some reporting on it, but it's not based on data that the state actively provides. the director of health services essentially said, sue us to try to get it. Other states are releasing this information. The state is claiming that it cannot for privacy reasons. And I have a feeling somebody's going to take her up on that offer and sue.
Another new headline this week is that President Trump will likely be making a trip to Arizona, his first outing really during the COVID-19 pandemic. Why is he coming to Arizona of all places?
Well, we don't know exactly. The governor was aware of his trip to Arizona yesterday when he was asked about it at the press conference, but wouldn't give additional details about why the president was coming here. In the same time that Trump announced that he would be coming to Arizona, he said, we can't wait to get those rallies back, thousands of people shoulder to shoulder. We don't think that's what's happening. There was a report in Politico this morning that says he may be coming to visit Honeywell, which has been manufacturing N95 medical face masks at a high rate. And so that seems like the most likely scenario. He'll do some sort of stump speech at Honeywell with some of the business executives. Probably not a rally, but the very idea of Trump coming here, I think, kind of emboldens some of his supporters who have been calling for, lifting the restrictions on the economy. And just kind of sets that tone. We've seen protests, rolling protests at the state capitol from a handful of people, a couple hundred people, who are really upset that Ducey has not opened the economy yet. And Trump has been throwing fuel on that fire while he kind of sways back and forth between we're doing the responsible things and I have the ultimate authority to reopen states and they need to reopen now. So as usual, Trump's sending mixed messages, and it's all going to come back to Arizona pretty soon here.
All right, Hank Stevenson from the Yellow Sheet Report. Thanks for your analysis.
Thanks, Lorraine.
Outside of Arizona's major metropolitan areas, rural communities are also grappling with economic setbacks that stem from the pandemic. Tony Banyagua traveled to Cochise County to learn how business owners and government leaders are coping.
The empty streets in Tombstone and other popular tourist attractions in Cochise County appear to be scenes from science fiction movies. Once vibrant destinations are now desolate and depressed. The throngs of people that were here not long ago enjoying food, drinks, and entertainment are gone. Shadows and silence have replaced crowds and conversations. In the city of Douglas, on the border with Mexico, Anel Lopez and her husband bought the historic Gadsden Hotel about 3 years ago. Through hard work and determination, the fruits of their labor were paying off.
Steadily, we were just growing and growing and growing and growing upward. We would see the upward trend.
The couple added a speakeasy and began hosting weddings and other events. They remodeled and helped the community open 2 small museums. And then, the coronavirus pandemic.
Prior to COVID, we had 32 employees. At that time, when it was still booming, we needed to add about 5 more at that time just because we couldn't keep up with the volume and the momentum. It was growing faster than what we could keep up with. And then COVID hit. So right now we have 7 employees. They average about 15 to 20 hours a week right now.
Some of her 22 rooms are still being rented by guests who go to Douglas for essential business, but all other activities are on hold.
You have to remember our business encompasses everything: bar, restaurant, events, and I have 0. That is where we really bring in our revenue. So, and this is kind of our own lockdown. It's a nice fortress to be in, but yes, it's just very sad. I think it was more disheartening for me are my employees.
About 30 miles northwest of Douglas, employees are faring much better at Jimmy's Hot Dog Company in Bisbee, which is staying quite busy.
Can I get that gyro now? They got it.
Workers include Jaylene Alvarez. She lost a part-time job in historic Old Bisbee, but has had more security on the outskirts of the city.
I have roommates and families, and they're all out of work right now, so it's affecting them. My roommate, she had 3 jobs at once, and now she's got none, so kind of helping her out with that. Lucky to have this.
I do this about 300 times a day.
Jimmy Pianchi and his wife opened the restaurant 14 years ago.
From the day we opened, about half of our business has been traditionally takeout. And so it wasn't much of a jump for us to go to 100% takeout. Our business hasn't suffered a great deal.
Given the coronavirus-related closures and limitations, he considers himself lucky.
A great deal of the mom and pop restaurants are not going to be able to survive this. I hate to see that happen, but even in our situation, if I was only a sit-down restaurant, I'd already be closed.
Ed Gilligan is the Cochise County administrator and oversees its budget. Discussions had already begun for the new fiscal year beginning on July 1st, but the coronavirus has thrown a harrowing wrench into the numbers. The repercussions include a precipitous drop in sales taxes, fewer funds from gasoline taxes, and a sudden spike in unemployment.
Our plan right now is to budget close to flat with identifying some things we know we can absolutely operate throughout a year without. One of those operations is the juvenile detention center. And our intent now going into the year is to develop a plan to close operations there and to contract with the neighboring county for those services.
Ensuring residents' economic, social, and medical needs was already challenging in this rural region pre-coronavirus. Carrie Langley is the Director of Health and Social Services for the county.
We're just over 6,200 square miles. And so to put that into perspective, that's about the size of Connecticut and New Jersey combined in landmass. And that's about 130,000 individuals who call Cochise County home.
As of April 30th, the county reported 784 COVID-19 tests, 39 cases, and 0 deaths. The open space can aid with social distancing and isolation efforts, but it also creates hurdles for residents who may have to travel far for medical appointments or other essential services. Staff here are taking precautions, but they have to keep working.
So we're still public health, and public health, even though we're in the middle of a global pandemic, we still have to make sure we're delivering all the vaccines that kids need and adults need. We still have to provide other services like detection and treatment for STDs and TB and anything else that comes under the realm of public health, and answering questions about COVID.
Moving forward, Langley says the pandemic has underscored the need for public health funding and broadband internet so people can stay connected and work or study. There will be other challenges, especially since governments are already reeling from the painful drop in revenues. Ed Gilligan says the county will be forced to drop or reduce some services, but he hopes to preserve the county-wide staff of employees.
Our county employs about 850 people. And that number reflects a decrease of 200 people from the highest staffing level we had. And that was preceding the Great Recession in 2008 and 9. We never built back. And so with that, those 850 people reflect the critical infrastructure we need to provide services across the county.
Cochise County shares a border with Mexico where many shoppers and other visitors live but would spend their money in Arizona. The border is presently under a restricted travel ban from the Trump administration, and County Sheriff Mark Daniels is asking that those restrictions continue. He says it's for the good of public safety, public health professionals, and their families. Back at the Gadsden Hotel in Douglas, Lopez pays close attention to every development. She can't help but ponder about an eventual reopening and wants to move cautiously.
You know, that's a very difficult question. It's something that I think about every day. For us, we have to be very careful on how we roll that out, because if I have 20 to 30 random people walking through my lobby, you know, those random people, we don't know where they've been. We don't know, you know, like with the business essential travelers, they know the protocols. So this is kind of already that screening process. The ones that are just trying to get away from wherever they're on lockdown, I don't know what they're carrying and they're exposing us to.
Back to the governor's plan to let retailers reopen, it raises questions about employers' legal obligations when it comes to preventing an outbreak in the workplace, as well as what options employees have if they don't think it's safe to return. We got answers from labor attorney Barney Holtzman. If and when employers are ready to open their businesses or given the go-ahead, what sorts of rights do employees have if they're not quite comfortable returning to the workplace?
Well, I think the most important thing for employees to know is that they should talk about it with their employers. There are certain laws that govern safety in the workplace, mainly OSHA, the Occupational Safety Health Administration, has a guideline that requires that each employer provide a workplace that is free from recognized hazards that are causing or likely to cause death or serious physical harm. So that applies certainly because COVID-19 is something that's recognized as a serious hazard in the workplace. However, for most employees who work in environments that are either low or medium risk, they will have to return to work with precautions to provide for the limitation of the spread of the disease.
What about personal protective equipment? Are employers required to provide that?
If it has been recommended by a governmental agency that the employer have PPE equipment or that the employees utilize it when doing their job, then yes, the employer should provide it to their employees.
Let's say there's an outbreak of the coronavirus in the workplace. Is the employer liable?
OSHA is going to make sure that the employer has taken reasonable steps to prevent any sort of outbreak of COVID-19. And so they'll look at the steps that they took, both in terms of providing education and guidance to their employees, the sanitation procedures that they put in place. They'll look at some administrative changes that could be made and some environmental changes that could be made. Things such as we're seeing in the grocery stores now with one-way aisles and markings on the floor designating how far away you should be from other employees or from other customers. Those sorts of things are steps that every employer should be taking as they're looking to bring employees back into the workplace.
Given that there are so many unknowns right now, how much weight does this Families First Corona Response Act, how much weight will it carry as people start to re-enter the workforce?
I think we're going to see much more use of the leave that is provided in that bill. Certainly when someone is caring for someone with COVID-19 or they may be infected with the virus and are told not to go back to work, there will be leave provided under these laws for 2 weeks, certainly the first 2 weeks for any employee that has the need for such leave.
We've had you on this program before where we talk about Arizona being a right-to-work state. What sorts of things do you think we ought to consider as Arizona potentially prepares to re-enter the workplace?
Well, certainly for any workplace that is union governed, the CBA or the collective bargaining agreement is going to play a role in what needs to be done. I do think we're going to see more employees look to maybe the unions and whether or not they should unionize to provide themselves more rights. As for the at-will employment, I think we're going to see where some employees are going to say they don't want to come back to work for concerns over COVID-19, and employers may decide that they need to separate ways with that employee.
It would be fair to say there can't be an expectation that your job will still be there then if you make that sort of announcement about not feeling safe in the workplace.
That's correct. The different laws do protect reasonable good faith complaints or concerns being raised. But if your employer describes to you the steps they have taken to make the workplace safe in terms of, we've talked about sanitation and other environmental controls, whether it's changing how often they replace filters and air conditioners, or if it's physical things they do, such as barriers, once those are explained to an employee and it appears good faith what the employer has done, the employee should come back to work.
Okay, Barney Holtzman, thanks for your insight.
Thank you for having me.
Before we go, we return to our occasional commentary series, Own Words. Everyone has their own story about how the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted their day-to-day. That includes local business owners Ricky English of English Salon and Spa in Tucson and Mark Barris of Flying Leap Vineyards in Elgin, as well as Pastor Waylon Sears of Victory Worship Center. We asked all three how this crisis has changed their livelihoods. Here's what they had to say.
Here we have 4 services through the day, so thousands of people coming and going.
It was a big thing. Our third birthday did just happen. So that was something. We usually have a big party for the salon to celebrate.
Here at Flying Leap, we're vertically organized. So we're farmers, we're winemakers, distillers, we're also retailers. We have a wide retail network. The government has forced us to shut down our retail network.
The emotional toll has been challenging. Obviously, I miss our people. You know, I miss our people. I miss just being with people.
Small business is under assault, okay? What's going on? The virus is not causing this response. The government is causing this response.
This was just towards the end of our season, as we would call it, and to have that hit right before summer, it does have an effect, but we do know that there is going to be a lot of people coming back into the salon to just get a new haircut, refresh their color, or for us to fix something that they shouldn't have done at home.
Overall, our total sales have collapsed 50%. We've laid off roughly 2/3 of our entire workforce.
We personally now have called, when I say personally, our staff have called 14,000 households that are represented at our church. Some of these people, you know, are every week. Some of these people haven't been for 10 years, and they get a call from Victory going, you know, hey, are you okay? Can we help you? Is there anything you need?
We could get by for a few more weeks, a month or so, but we just got to play it every day.
You know, you can't come up to a winery in the middle of Santa Cruz County, but you can go to Costco and hang out with hundreds of people shopping.
We've had people that have had COVID in our church, in our family. We've had people that have passed away, their families have passed away, and so your heart breaks for that piece, obviously.
Sensibility has got to take over at some point, and the economic interests of the people that live in this state need to take a priority over the tiny fraction of people that are dealing with COVID-19, and my heart goes out to each and every one of them. But my heart goes out to my employees who have been crying in my arms.
Normally, we're able to fix whatever's wrong quickly and move on. Well, we can't fix this. We can't just make COVID go away. We can't get our job back. We can't force, I would encourage you, it's all gonna come back. It's gonna come back. This is not the end.
We do want to go back to work, but other people going back sooner than technically we've heard we can. It's kind of ruining it for everyone. So do the smart thing.
What I've personally been focusing on is not just getting through it, but who do I become in this process?
That's all for now. Thanks for joining us. To get in touch, visit us on social media or send an email to Arizona360@azpm.org and let us know what you think. We'll see you next week.